Hello and good evening, everyone. GRBD, I'm opting for the graduate course tomorrow. I'll work as a PNB. I want to know what are the timings for the class. ESI class will held at in the evening. Rest of the schedule, you can talk to the team. They'll let you know about the schedule. This economy and finance classes will held in the evening. Somewhere around 8 or 8:30 will be the timing for the ESI classes. So in last class we have started the topic of poverty, and in this topic of poverty, I told you about poverty is defined as relative deprivation from basic requirements. Fine, poverty is defined as a deprivation from basic requirements of human life. Right, relative deprivation from basic requirement of human life, and then I also explained you कि we define poverty. We define poverty in two ways. One is absolute poverty and other is relative poverty, right? One is absolute poverty and other is relative poverty. Relative poverty is always looking for what? Distribution of income among population, right? It looks for distribution of income among the population, whereas absolute means generally based on head count method. Right, I'll explain it today. So right now just we have to complete this relative poverty part. So in the relative poverty, distribution of income, and for that Lawrence has given Max O Lawrence has given Lawrence curve, and we have discussed this Lawrence curve yesterday, and he explained, he took the population on the y-axis and income on the y-axis and population on the x-axis. On that basis he have the curve. First, a perfect equality line. What perfect equality line shows? Perfect equality line shows the distribution of income is perfectly equal among the various section of the population. Only then you will receive what? Perfect equality line. Then he tried to understand this line with respect to the real distribution of income in the practically, means practically how the income being distributed. Then he draw that curve on the basis, right, on the basis of the real time distribution of income among the population. And he said that if we will draw the curve, we will get the different lines, and on the basis of study of those lines we can say that if that line, what he defined it as a Lorentz curve. These lines, curved lines, he defined it as a Lorentz curve, and he said that if the Lorentz curve is moving away from the perfect equality line, that shows the distribution of income is what? It is unequal distribution. More unequal distribution of income means few section of population is getting most part of the income and large section of population is getting less amount of income. Only then this kind of the curve we are going to get, which is moving away from the perfect equality line. This is I already explained in the last class, right? Whereas if Lorentz curve is moving towards the perfect equality line, what it shows? That it shows that more equitable distribution of income among the population, right? So in that way, Lorentz curve, if moving upwards, it shows decrease in the poverty, and if it is shifting downwards, it is showing increasing income. Poverty is increasing and income distribution is more and more unequal. So in that way, Lorentz curve define this thing. Fine. However, one flaw with the Lorentz curve is not able to explain the Total number means percentile terms or percentage terms, it is able to explain the percentage terms, but it is not able to explain the quantity wise. Right? Percentage wise is fine, but the quantity is not able to be defined by this. So Italian mathematician, his name was Corrado Gini, right? And he has given the Gini coefficient, right? Gini coefficient in context of what? Lorentz curve. So what Gini did, Corrado Gini, he has given what? Gini coefficient, capital G, Gini coefficient. So he has given the Gini coefficient, and for giving the Gini coefficient, he utilized Lorentz curve. He utilized the Lorentz curve, and through the Lorentz curve, he has given the concept of what? Coefficient, that is Gini coefficient, right? And the value of Gini coefficient, he said that the value of Gini coefficient, the maximum value, or you can say that the value of G is always going to be greater than or equal to 0, and the value of G is always going to be less than or equal to 1. This is what he has given when he calculated the Gini coefficient. Now, how he calculated the Gini coefficient? As it is mentioned, he utilized the Lorentz curve. And how the Lorentz curve was formed? Lorentz curve was like this one, right? Perfect equality line, and this is Lorentz curve. So this Gini coefficient is equal to Gini coefficient is equal to area between Lorentz curve and perfect equality line upon area of triangle ABC. Right? Area of triangle ABC. Fine. So area of triangle ABC, this is the triangle. ABC is this triangle. So the area of triangle ABC, and in the numerator, area between Lorentz curve and perfect equality line, that means this area. So in the numerator of Gini coefficient, this is going to be the numerator, the area between Lorentz curve and Lorentz curve and perfect equality line. So this is the area between Lorentz curve and perfect equality line. This area. Right. So this area Gini has took in terms of what? It took in terms of numerator, the area between Lorentz curve and Gini coefficient, and then he took the entire area of triangle ABC. Right? He took the entire area of triangle ABC. Okay. Now he said that the value of Gini coefficient G, it is going to be what? It is going to be between 0 and 1. The maximum value and the minimum value. Maximum value of G is going to be 1. Minimum value of G is going to be what? 0. And if G is 1, if G is 1, the value of G is 1, that means when it is going to be 1, it is going to be 1 only when the value of numerator and denominator is going to be equal. Only then the value of G is going to be 1. So it means the area between Lorentz curve and perfect equality line and the area of triangle ABC is equal. That can happen only when this Lorentz curve is going to touch. The Lorentz curve is going to touch what? Is going to be touch this AB line or the perfect inequality line. Perfect inequality line. So when there will be perfect inequality, then the value of G is going to be what? 1. Right? The value of G is going to be 1 only when the Lorentz curve is going to touch what? The perfect inequality line. It is perfectly going to be superimposed on that line. Only then the G's value is going to be 1. It shows perfect inequality. Right? Whereas when the G's value is going to be 0, the value of G is going to be 0 only when this part, the numerator part is going to be what? 0. And it is going to be 0 when? It is going to be 0 only when the area between perfect equality line and the area between perfect equality line and the Lorentz curve is also going to 0. When it is going to 0? If Lorentz curve start shifting towards perfect equality line. If it starts, this is what? This is, suppose that this is the perfect equality line and this is Lorentz curve. So Lorentz curve starts shifting, and when it is going to touch the perfect equality line, the area between perfect equality line and Lorentz curve is going to be what? 0. And if it is going to be 0, then the value of G is going to be what? 0, because numerator is going to be 0. And if the Lorentz curve is going to touch this perfect equality line, that means there is no inequality of income in the society. Everyone is getting same amount of income. So G is equal to 0 shows perfect equality. G's value, if it is going to be what? If it is going to be 0, it shows what? Perfect equality. G is equal to 0, perfect equality. So we can say that if the value of G, Gini coefficient G, is increasing, means income inequality is also increasing. And further we can say that if the value of G starts decreasing, income inequality also starts decreasing. Right. So both Gini coefficient and Lorentz curve tells us about what? Income inequality in the society. Lorentz curve was limited to provide us not too much sufficient data. It is always showing in terms of percentage, right? Whereas Gini coefficient is capable of providing more numerical data about the income inequality in the society. Right. So both methodology are based on what? More both of methodology is showing the distribution of income among the society, because I told you yesterday these phenomenons of whether it is given by the Lawrence or it is given by Corrado Guinea, they have given in the context of Western countries, especially the European countries, where the distribution of income is a problem. Some people are getting high income, some people are getting low amount of income, but almost every section of the society is getting the income. Right. So that is based on relative distribution of income among the society. So for Western people, what is the poverty? Poverty is the unequal distribution of income among the society or in their country. Right. But when we see this phenomenon in the context of Asian countries, right, especially those countries who have colonial past, right, Asian and African countries or even South American countries who have their colonial past, and they were severely exploited by their colonial masters, right, like British, French, or Dutch, they have exploited them very hard. Because of that exploitation, certain section of a population, they are completely deprived. They are completely deprived from the source of income. Completely deprived. Right. So the methodology given by whom? The methodology given by either Lawrence or Guinea, it is going to be insufficient in order to map inequality or poverty. Better to say poverty. Better to say poverty in that countries. Why? Because what Lawrence and Guinea is defining poverty as a unequal distribution of income among the society, right? But there are many countries where there are a huge number of population which is completely deprived from the income, right? And they are fighting for their survival. They are fighting. What is life for them? What is life for them? The life for them, it's the fight for survival. When they woke up in the morning, for them, they do not know that whether they are going to get the food for that day or not. So they woke up with the instincts of survival, right? So that kind of the poverty also exists in the world, and for that, researchers in economics or the policymakers, they went for the concept of absolute poverty. So under the concept of absolute poverty, what we are going to focus? We are going to focus on how many people are there fighting for their existence or survival. In other words, food. In other words, food or getting a food is their only way to live, right? So this is why absolute poverty is going to focus how many are there who are not able to get food. This is why here we are going to use head count method. What method we are going to use? We are going to use head count method. Head count method, we are going to calculate those number of the people who are even deprived of, or they are not even able to get what? Even they are not able to get food, right? So these people are going to be what? These people are going to be focused when we go for what? Absolute poverty. So there are countries like completely unstable countries like Somalia. There is no political government exist in the country of Somalia, right? So we cannot use the Gini coefficient and Lawrence curve method in countries like Somalia, Rwanda, all these countries, because large number of population in those countries, African countries, still they are fighting for the survival of the food, right? So that is why the methodology of Lorentz curve and Gini coefficient is not used, but the methodology of what? Absolute poverty is used. Okay, is used there, right? So that methodology is used there. Now, we have two basic principles to calculate this uh, poverty in our society. Right. Now, let's talk about India. So, if we will see India concerned about providing better facilities to their citizens and alleviate the poverty from the society, it was not a primary fundamental question for the government before independence, right? So before independence, government may they have some idea, but they are not serious about such kind of the social welfare thing. They are here for the purpose of exploitation, right? And their target is to what? To have India as a market for finished goods and the source of raw material, right? So poverty alleviation, betterment, better life for the citizens of India was never a question for them. So that is why before independence we do not have any serious kind of the effort made by the Britishers in our country even to calculate and to alleviate. First to calculate the poverty and then try to alleviate the poverty from India. But when India got independence in 1947, it became a primary challenge for the government, right? So government of India post independence, for them the poverty was one of the biggest issue. And if we will see the population of India in 1947, almost 90% population of the country is struggling to get the food, right? Struggling to get the food, दो वक्त की रोटी जिसको बोलते हैं, that is struggling for the food only, right? So this is why in the initial years the government of India and the policy think tank like planning commission, they focus on what? They focus on providing the basic essential thing, that is food itself, right? Food itself. But poverty calculation, the calculation of the poverty, planning commission have not made any kind of effort for the calculation of the poverty by using some methodology, right? So methodology of calculating the poverty was never a kind of area of discussion debate in the planning commission. The focus was on what? Provide all basic necessities to the people of India. For that purpose, community development program, right, and all other things were initiated. That is initiated, right? But when India has struggled to even fulfill the food requirements, especially when the drought came in 1966-67, right? So under that drought, the problem of food grain we have faced, right? And India went to the United States and requested for food grains. Then India realized कि we have to be go for self sufficiency in the food grain, and providing the food, sufficient food to the population is the primary target, right? Community development, health, other things can be focused, but we have to shift our complete focus majorly on providing food first. Providing food first. If you'll see the approach, if you'll closely see the approach of government of India from 1950 onwards till then 1970s, 70s in the sense beginning of 1970s. So initial 20 years, India have tried to provide each and everything in the name of community development program, like village development, Gandhian idea of village republic. Government of India have tried, but the events happened with this drought of 1966-67. Then India was forced to go to United States and negotiate for food, and after that government of India has started green revolution program. So the complete focus was shifted towards where? Providing the food, right? And if we are able to achieve this target, then we will focus on the other things. This is the kind of mindset from late 1960s in early 1970s. So when the planning commission has shifted its focus, so they have to go for certain studies. So in the India, studies started ki how we can provide, to whom we have to target to provide the food grain, right? So they defined in terms of those people who are not able to get the food, we have to calculate them and we have to target them, and accordingly we have to focus on increasing of our food grain production, right? So understand the entire situation in one go. Otherwise, generally we study the planning in India and poverty in India in silos, right? So one chapter of planning in India, other chapter of the poverty in India. But rather than studying that thing in the silos, try to understand in the holistic way. The holistic situation is कि India have to alleviate the poverty for us, providing the food to the every section of the population, and for that purpose we must increase our food grain production. So we have to start our green revolution. So we have started our green revolution, increase the food grain production, and in that way we can provide the food to every section of our population in order to alleviate the poverty, right? So the fundamental question from the point of policymaker is how to calculate them. How to calculate them ki what number of population, what percentage of population is not able to get the food, and what amount of food is required. मीन्स कई बार लोग मजाक में बोलते हैं ना कि जीने के लिए खाते हो कि खाने के लिए जीते हो, राइट? सो जीने के लिए खाना मीन्स living for food only and need food for living, right? तो वहां पर we have to identify what minimum amount of food is required, right? So what minimum amount of food is required for an individual to survive. On that basis we will calculate the what number of food is required, right? Total number of food is required and how much money is required to get that food. So all these calculations begin in India. So the concept of poverty line came into the picture on the basis of this concept, right? Food, how much food is required means how much calorie is required, and to get that calorie, how much money is required. So on the basis, we have defined the poverty line. Then over the year, the poverty line was under discussion in the planning commission कि there should be a uniform poverty line or there must be a different poverty line for urban and rural, or state specific poverty line will be there. What will be the good? That is the point of discussion in the planning commission from 1970s, the inception of poverty line. In 1970s, poverty line was came into the picture, and from 1970s till then 2000 means next 25 years the discussion policy making was completely focused towards what? Poverty line, right? Poverty line means what? How we are defining the poverty? Those people who are not even able to get the food, right? So the India's approach, if we will see in the broader way, the approach of India from 1947 till then 2004, the approach was like कि for us, what is poverty? For us, poverty means those people who are not able to get the food. That is poverty. What we understood as a poverty, what policymakers consider as a poverty, if you are not able to get the food, right? But the thing started changing, especially when Amartya Sen won the Nobel Prize, right? I think it's 1998 or 1997. So he did a remarkable work on the poverty and unequal distribution of income, right? So his work, Inequality Re-examined, right? In his work, Inequality Re-examined, he severely criticized the government's approach, not only Indian government's approach, but all over the world, where the approach is like considering food as a only requirement to uplift the human being. He said, no, poverty doesn't define only with the food. Poverty means people are deprived. If people are deprived to get other basic fundamental requirement, like if people are not even able to get admitted their children in the schools, they are not able to get the basic health facilities. So that deprivation also a symbol of what? Poverty. And by that time, what India did in 1991, the reforms, those reforms start paying some dividend, and government means in India, income level starts rising. So the time the income level starts rising, government also started shifting its focus not only on the increasing the income, but also providing the better distribution of income in our society. So that is why after uh, means not after, with the beginning of 21st century, India started gradually shifting its approach with respect to the poverty from absolute poverty to relative poverty. Though officially never ever government of India went for that, but unofficially government has acknowledged what? Acknowledged कि poverty is not just to get the food. Poverty have multi-dimensional phase. If you are not able to get the food and education, health facilities, only it means not means if you're not able to get the food, health, education, and other social facilities, you will be considered as a poor. Maybe you are able to fulfill your food requirement, but still, if you are suffering with all those issues, you will be considered as a poor, right? So in that way, things went on and on. But still, the concept of poverty line was in existence, right? So government started talking about the multi-phase of the poverty, but still it was relying on what? The poverty line. But when the new government came into the central center, that is India government, and they abolished the planning commission, the entire idea of setting a poverty line, right? What is the poverty line and poverty line based calculation has taken a halt. From there, government officially acknowledged that now we are not going to release this poverty line after certain point of time, what is practiced during the planning commission. During the planning commission era, for every 5-year plan, they define the poverty line. Actually, what they do, every 5-year plan, when they start, they say that this amount of income is required to fulfill your basic requirement. For example, what they did, they said that in urban area calorie 2100 calorie is required for fulfilling the basic requirement on daily basis, and in the rural area it is 2400 calories required to fulfill the daily requirements, right? So how we are going to define the poverty? So 2400 in the rural area, because in the rural area you have to do more, what you have to do more manual work, so more calories are required. In urban area, relatively less amount of physical work is required, so less amount of calories required. So this calorie is required for a human being to survive, right? Daily basis, this is the requirement. Now in order to get that 2100 calorie, you need, suppose, rupees 28 in the urban area and rupees 18 in the rural area. So those people who are not able to get this amount, they are going to be under the poverty line, they are below poverty line. And those who are able to get this amount of income on daily basis, they are above poverty line. So this is daily requirement. On the basis of daily requirement, you can calculate the monthly requirement, then annual requirement. And considering a family having a 5 members, so one member need how much? 28 rupees. Then how much required for the 5 members in a day, in a month, in a year? So if a household income is less than this amount, suppose that X amount is there for annual basis, a family of 5 members, daily 28 rupees required, and on that basis the X amount is came, but the family is not getting that X amount. In that case, that family is BPL family, below poverty line family, and it is urban poverty line. Urban poverty line 28 rupees or below, it is urban poverty line. Similarly, for rural, 18 rupees is considered as what? The poverty line. So in that way, planning commission for every 5-year plan, they come for this. On this basis, 2100 calorie and 2400 calorie is required. So suppose that in 11th 5-year or 7th 5-year plan, this was the figure. So for next 5-year plan, what they think? They suppose that they think that 32 rupees is required in the urban area, and in the rural area it is required 22 rupees. So in this way, for every 5-year plan, they set, and accordingly the population which is under poverty is calculated. Right. So this is the way how India was targeting to alleviate the poverty. Fine. But when planning commission was abolished, right, the Niti Ayog, the means the way Niti Ayog think is this is not an appropriate way. Only food, because if a people are not able to get what, not able to get the proper education, proper health facilities, they will be remain under the poverty, right? So the methodology of Niti Ayog, right, the Niti Ayog's methodology is not based on a particular line. It is not based on particular line. What they do is they will say that कि government have to work more in the education area by this way, government have to implement the education policies in this way, have to increase the basic infrastructure for the primary education. So government with the policy think tank Niti Ayog is going to work on how to provide education to all, right? At the same time, we also make an effort to provide health infrastructure, health facilities to all, right? Food to all. So at one point, we are focusing to provide all basic necessities, right? And at the same time, through the indexing, through the different indexing, housing index, right, educational index, happiness index. So in that way, we will create a different index for checking our performance, right? So if you will compare the difference between planning and Niti, planning commission and Niti. So planning commission is like that ki planning commission has drawn a line. They have drawn a line, and those people who are below the line, planning commission will try to make an effort to put those people above that line. Right? This is how planning commission was working. Niti Ayog says that ki no, this is not a right way. The right way is we should not focus only one particular thing. We should make a comprehensive effort, right? Comprehensive and targeted effort, right? Not just a line. Comprehensive and targeted effort. Try to increase the level of education, try to increase the level of social security measures, health infrastructure, educational infrastructure, and also check through the indexes. Ki is this state or is this areas performing well or not? If not performing, we have to focus on them. But it should not limit it to what? Just food only. Right. So in that way, the way of Niti Ayog's way is little bit different, not little bit, very much different from the classical approach of what? Planning commission. Now people will judge that ki what planning commission was doing that is wrong, what Niti Ayog is doing right way. But the thing is, Niti Ayog and Planning Commission were established in the different time and space. The time and space when the Planning Commission was established, the time and space of that time of India and today's India, what completely different scenario, completely different things are there. So the way Planning Commission did that was right thing of that point of time, right? That was right thing of that point of time. In fact, after 1991, Planning Commission have started making their effort to make and accept the definition of poverty with the multidimensional factors. Right. Though that is not culminated finally and Planning Commission itself was abolished, but they started thinking over, right? Ki poverty should not be a single kind of the thing. Niti Ayog born in 2014-15, and since their birth they are having a different kind of India from the India which was in 1947. And Niti Ayog not going back but looking from present to future. Ki this is what we have right now and this is the right way to counter the poverty in our country in this way, right? So this is two different approach. I hope what I have explained is clear. If you have any doubt with respect to the discussion, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll what I have discussed, I'll just you show some data and I'll share this thing with you. If you have any doubt in your mind with respect to what I have discussed till then on, please let me know. तैयारियों sir, please update the ESI PIB July part 3 and MCQ on the current affairs. Bhaiya ji, please ask such kind of question to Ashok sir. I do not have any idea, my dear, on this regard. So this kind of the question can be answered by Ashok sir only. You can drop a mail or message to him. He'll reply your questions. If you have any question with Atisha sir, I have a query regarding NABARD form filling application. Oh my dear, please ask any question related to this session. Apart from NABARD filling form, again the right person is Ashok sir. You can ping him. He will answer. He will definitely answer. Sooner or later, he will definitely going to answer whatever is your doubt regarding NABARD form filling. If you have any question what I have explained, please let me know. Any question? Okay. So eh, here I'll let you know in this PDF, it is mentioned the poverty line estimation in India. Regarding poverty line estimation, I just discussed with you. Now you can see in the facts and data also. So pre-independence, it was poverty and British rule in India. Dadabhai Naorozi in his book Poverty and Un-British Rule in India made an earliest estimate of poverty line, and it was 16 to 35 rupees per capita year, means 16 rupees per year and 35 rupees per year, based on the cost of subsistence diet of emerging coolies during that voyage living in the state of quiditude, right? So he took example of coolies, right? So he tried to estimate, like Planning Commission tried to estimate, he also tried to estimate with living standard of coolies, right? Then National Planning Committee in 1938. During the Congress session, National Planning Committee was set up under the chairmanship of Nehru, and they set 15 rupees to 20 rupees per month, right? This amount is per month. Fine. This amount is per month on the basis of minimum standard of living. So you can see that every time how much money is required to survive, how much money is required to survive, especially to fulfill the food requirements. Bombay Plan proponents suggested 75 rupees per year, which is much modest than the NPC. So NPC is calculating 15 to 20 rupees per month. Bombay planners, what is Bombay Plan? Some economist, means some industrialist of Bombay region at that point of time, when India was like, okay, we are going to get an independence, right? So after getting the independence, how we can go for economic development of our country. So many people are giving their suggestions, right? Intellectuals are giving their suggestions. So some economists like Tata, Birla, and other prominent businessmen from the Bombay region, they have given their common opinion for the roadmap for economic development of India, that is known as a Bombay Plan, right? That is known as a Bombay Plan. So under that plan, they also looked over the poverty and they suggested 75 rupees per capita considered, right? So after independence, as I told you, initial years the poverty line was not a focus, but what was the focus? Focus was holistic development. Though in 1962, working group, a poverty line in India was qualified first time 1962. A group minimum requirements, food and non-food, of an individual for a healthy living. A group appeared to have taken the account of recommendation of balanced diet. See, balanced diet Nutrition Advisory Group of Indian Council of Medical Research in 1958. So there was a working group, not officially by the government of India, but a independent working group. They have worked and they tried to define a poverty line and their basis of what? Food and not food of healthy living. Healthy living means again the focus on food and non-food for healthy living, right? So healthy living is basically consider food and non-food habits, but food is the centerpiece, like education and having the access to the social securities. That was not a focus. Healthy was a focus, right? So in that way, they tried to work for defining how Indians can be considered as above the poverty, and that again provided a basis to Dandekar and Rath. They have studied and they have given the origin of India's poverty lie in the seminal work of these two economists, Dandekar and Rath, who first established consumption level requirements to meet the minimum calories norm of an average of 2250. Again, they are not from the planning commission. That is again an independent study, and again an independent study, and that study is based on what? Minimum calorie requirement. Minimum calorie requirement they consider as a base, right? Expenditure based poverty line estimate generated a debate on the minimum calorie consumption. So that become a debatable issue. What minimum calorie is required, right? Minimum calorie required and how much money is required for getting that calorie requirement, right? Then the task force. What came? Task force came on the projection of minimum needs and effective consumption demand, headed by Dr. Y.K. Alag. He has submitted its official counting. Means this time who came into the picture? Planning Commission came into the picture, and they started working on it, because during the fifth 5 year plan, government has given a kind of slogan of Garibi Hatao. Right, government has given a slogan of Garibi Hatao. So under that, Planning Commission started working on it in the task force mode, and they went for definition of poverty, and for that 2400 calorie per capita per day in the rural area, 2100 calorie per capita per day in the urban area. So on the basis of recommendation of Nutrient Group of 1968 and the reference for the population of 1971, they came up with the idea of what, 2100 calorie for urban and 2400 calorie from rural, and on that basis how much money is required is calculated and poverty line is defined, right? Then who came? Lakadwala special group, and they have made no attempt to capture a different price on the consumption. Poverty estimates were revised with each preliminary NSS survey, right? And the price indices were used to adjust the price change over the time. Means Lakadwala committee was there and they just want to define 2400 calorie and 2100 calories okay. They are okay with that. What they want to define is how to calculate how much money is required to achieve this calorie requirement and this calorie requirement. So Lakadwala expert group was focused on this thing, how to define how much money is required, right? So they worked on that thing, and it is suggested that the updating using of the consumer price index for industrial workers. So see what they suggested. They suggested that there is a CPI, consumer price index inflation, means how much consumers are spending to get their fulfill their requirements, right? That is consumer price index, and that consumer price index in the urban area for whom? Industrial workers, and consumer price index in the agricultural laborers in the rural area. So what they are going to do, they are going to suggest that when you have to fix how much money is required, for that use what? CPI IW and CPI AL for defining how much money is required for 2400 calorie and 2100 calorie. So this was the main focus of what? This was the main focus of Lakalwada expert group. Now the Tendulkar committee came. Tendulkar committee, as I told you in the discussion, from 2021st century onwards, India started looking towards what? Multidimensional index, multidimensional indexing under the influence of work and recognized work of Amartya Sen. India government also think कि now it's a time we have to think कि is poverty is limited to food or other things can be also included in order to estimate the poverty, and for that purpose economist Suresh Tendulkar was assigned a task, and that is an expert group. Poverty estimate being linked to 1973-1974 poverty line basket, means what are the things is required to fulfill the requirement. For that we are taking the basket of 1973-74, right? So suppose that if you want to know what are the food requirements, means 2400 calorie, how we can get the 2400 calorie, by eating what? So for that consideration we are taking the data of what, 1973 1974, right? So he suggested that over the time lot of things have been changed, so first we have to change this thing. Then he said that issue with the adjustment of inflation, price inflation, both spectrally and temporarily, right? So two lines have to be made, right? So spatial and temporal both have to be taken. Third thing, the presumption of provision of health and education, right? So in nutshell, Tendulkar committee want to make certain changes in the understanding of poverty. It should not be limited with respect to only what food requirement, other things must be included in that, right? So this is what he suggested. You can read those if you want, but overall in nutshell they suggested, Tendulkar group suggested, we have to make it multidimensional. Then Rangarajan committee has given the final thing. They said that there the separate consumption basket, means what are the things people are using in the rural area, what are the things people are using in the urban area. Apart from food, other things must be included in order to calculate what? Poverty line. So Rangarajan and Tendulkar, right? Though both committee they want to make the understanding of a poverty from food only to multidimensional, right? But both suggestions were not accepted by the planning commission. Planning commission said that ki, okay, while making a plan we will consider it, but the poverty line is going to be based on only calorie requirement, right? Means we will calculate the poverty on the basis of consumption only. Other things we will try to incorporate, but the poverty we will define on the basis of what? Food only, right? But destiny was in the other direction. Means planning commission itself abolished, and now what we have, Niti Aayog, and they have index basis thing. On the basis of indexing, they are they are based on rolling plan. I told you in the planning part ki rolling planning means what? Not going to have a 5 year kind of the thing. Have a 1 or 2 year plan, implement it. For first year, implement it, and on the basis of performance, just look back your policies, make an adjustment, and again implement. On the second year of the implementation, see the performance, see your goals, and accordingly change it to for what? Third year. What planning commission was doing? They set the target for 5 years. After 2.5 years, they will go for mid-term review of their policy. And on the basis of midterm review itself is going to take almost a year. So during the 5 year plan, they have started the midterm review after 2.5 years. The data of the midterm review is going to be available in the fourth year. So for next 5 year plan, they are going to make certain changes. For next FYP 5 year plan, they are going to make certain changes. So technically only once in a 5 year is going to be reviewed under the planning way. But under the rolling plan way, what Niti Aayog is following, they are suggesting the policy for the government is implementing, and on the basis of its implementation they are making an index, and on the basis of index based performance they are going to resuggest or redraft the policy for the government of India so that it can be functional in the effective manner. So in this way they are looking for the poverty, right? Now, so, what the basic fundamental principles are required, I have discussed with you. Again, strong suggestion, recommendation. I have said this thing in the last class also. Again, I am saying that go to the course, see the material, go for all the schemes implemented by the government of India, different departments and ministries. What schemes they have implemented or they are implementing for the purpose of what? For the purpose of this thing, you have to work on it. Okay, just give me a second.